Divine revelation for the chosen. 3 miraculous reasons to avoid spiritual errors on August 13th. In the quaint English village of St. Michael's, nestled under the towering stone spire of the ancient church, a shroud of anticipation hung in the air as the eve of August 13th approached. Whispers of divine messages and celestial wonders had woven through the community like gossamer threads, and amidst it all stood Thomas, a devoted parishioner whose heart brimmed with fervent faith and compassion. On that fateful midnight, Thomas knelt in prayer, surrounded by flickering candles casting long shadows against the long-forgotten wood, when suddenly the world around him transformed. The warmth of divine presence engulfed him, and a voice, clear yet gentle, filled the sacred space, revealing 3 critical errors that threatened their beloved village's faith. Beware the skepticism towards miracles, it cautioned, the very air shimmering with a sense of urgency. Beware the drift towards self-reliance. Beware the indifference to interceding prayer. As his heart raced, Thomas stumbled home beneath a canopy of glowing stars, feeling the weight of this revelation press upon him. How could his neighbors ignore the miracles, the simplest joys that unfolded daily, like blossoms in the spring? Driven by this divine urging, he gathered the villagers around the ivy-clad church the next morning, his voice echoing with heartfelt urgency. Yet, he was met with murmurs of uncertainty, a ripple of doubt washing through them. The battle against modern skepticism had begun. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach seriously. It makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue days past as preparations for a grand festival unfolded, meant to rekindle their historical faith. But trouble brewed beneath the festive surface of financial disputes, and stormy skies loomed large, casting a shadow over their joy. Doubt crept like a thief in the night, gnawing at the edges of their resolve. Just as despair threatened to overwhelm them, a miracle unfolded, an unexpected heartbeat of hope. A young mother, once cloaked in grief, stepped forward. With tears shining like morning dew, she shared her story of healing, a breathtaking encounter with divine grace that reignited her flickering faith. The villagers leaned in, their hearts warmed by her luminous spirit, and in that moment, they began to witness the unexplainable. Whispers of renewed belief rippled through the crowd, and the embers of hope rekindled, bringing light to their hearts. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden hues upon the village, Thomas stood in prayer, seeking guidance as darkness began to shroud their fears. But a troubling thought struck him. What if their trials were merely the prologue? What if these challenges called them back to their roots? His heart ached with both anticipation and dread, pondering how they would navigate through this divine mystery. Would they find the courage to embrace hope, or would they be swept away by the winds of skepticism? In that sacred moment, Thomas realized the path ahead held a profound purpose, a divine journey beckoning toward eternal truths waiting to be unearthed. Dawn broke with a soft light, illuminating the village like a promise fulfilled. Thomas rose early that morning, the fragrance of fresh earth weaving through his senses. He felt the weight of yesterday's conversation with the villagers. The echoes of doubt still lingered. Could one story of healing truly shift the tide of disbelief? He stepped out of his door, greeted by the chorus of nature birds chirping, leaves rustling, and a gentle breeze whispering secrets within the trees. Everything around him sang of hope, yet his heart wrestled with uncertainty. Could he convince his neighbors of the transformative power that love and faith possessed? Moments later, he joined the others at the church, their faces still shadowed with worry and skepticism. As he spoke, Thomas sought to rekindle the flames of faith, his voice steady yet filled with the urgency of his mission. Brothers and sisters, he began, we have seen a miracle. That young mother stands as a witness to divine grace. Our faith needs nurturing. We must not allow doubt to overshadow our hearts. Yet some stood with their arms crossed, eyebrows furrowed, their spirits dampened by past disappointments. Miracles are for fairy tales, Thomas, one villager said, shaking his head. We need tangible hope, something real. Each word pierced Thomas's heart. How could he bridge the gap? He remembered the dialogue with the divine during his prayer. He took a deep breath and glanced at the children. Their innocent laughter reverberated like a melody of renewed faith. Look at our children, he exclaimed, eyes sparkling. They are our living hope. They trust without hesitation. There was a brief pause, the air thick with contemplation. Then a small girl stepped forward, clutching a plush toy, her eyes glimmering with innocence. I believe in magic, and I believe in the miracles that can happen here, she proclaimed boldly. A ripple of warmth surged through the crowd. The shift began. They exchanged glances. Skepticism weighed now against the buoyancy of childlike faith. Thomas smiled, sensing a crack in their defenses. That evening, they gathered around the flickering bonfire, the air electric with anticipation. Stories flowed like honey, sharing tales of prayers answered, moments of unexpected grace and healing unseen. Each shared experience acted like a thread, weaving their hearts back together. Thomas listened intently, reveling in the light of rekindled spirits. Laughter danced with the flames. Hope brewed in warm conversations. And for the first time in many days, optimism began to bloom. But as the fire flickered, so did their resolve. Shadows of doubt lurked just beyond the warmth. A voice rose from the back, clear yet hesitant. What if this is just a fleeting moment? What if tomorrow our troubles return? Silence fell, thick and heavy. Doubt lingered like a storm cloud, threatening to snuff out their newfound light. Thomas felt the tension hang in the air, heavy yet pregnant with possibility. Their willingness to share their fears spoke volumes. In that sacred moment, he understood they needed more than stories. They required purpose, a reason to believe. As the embers burned low, a divine spark kindled in his heart. What if our faith is not just for one day or one festival? What if, together, we can create a legacy of miracles? He urged, his voice imbued with sacred determination. Let's weave our faith into the very fabric of our lives. The crowd's energy shifted again, ignited by his words. Let us gather for prayer every evening. Let us share our hearts and support one another on this journey. The villagers nodded, some raising voices in agreement. They had tasted the sweetness of hope, yet a lingering question loomed. What greater miracles were waiting for them just beyond their fears? And as the stars twinkled like promises overhead, Thomas whispered a silent prayer. Seeking divine guidance for the path ahead, could their collective faith spark a deeper revelation? The answers felt tantalizingly close. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the village as twilight settled in. Thomas felt a stirring in the air, a blend of anticipation and trepidation as he thought of the gathering that evening. The villagers would come together again, hearts open just a little wider, ready to explore the faith they had long neglected. As the moon began to rise, he walked to the church, his heart throbbing with a mixture of excitement and responsibility. Each step echoed the commitment he felt to facilitate their journey of belief. He longed to guide them towards something greater, something miraculous. When he arrived, the villagers were already gathering, their laughter unfurling in the cool night air. The glow of lanterns reflected the glimmers of hope in their eyes. There was a new energy, a soft buzz of connection and curiosity, filling the space with warmth. Thomas felt it too. The heaviness of their doubts was beginning to lift. "Welcome, brothers and sisters," he called out as he took his place in front of the assembled group. "Tonight, we continue our journey together. Let's open our hearts and share our dreams of faith. For in this gathering, miracles can be woven through our very souls." As they settled in, Thomas asked each person to share their desires or fears. They took turns, voices rising and falling like the gentle waves of the sea. One elder spoke of a son lost in the chaos of the city, while a young couple shared their struggle to conceive a child. Another villager shared a burden of grief that weighed heavier with each passing day. With each revealing word, Thomas saw the flicker of understanding spark among them. Miracles are born in our vulnerability, he said softly. When we expose our wounds, we allow the light of faith to shine in. His heart pounded with conviction. Let us pray together, lifting these burdens into the hands of our Creator. As they joined in prayer, the air thickened with an electric charge. Thomas closed his eyes, envisioning each prayer as a delicate thread. The voices of his villagers intertwined, crafting a tapestry of faith. He prayed for healing, for restoration, and for the miracle of belief to take root. Then suddenly, a hush fell over the crowd, an almost tangible silence that felt sacred. In that moment, a profound realization washed over Thomas like a breaking wave. What if, he breathed, the miracle we seek lies not just in answers, but in the act of seeking itself? What if it is the journey of faith that transforms us? A collective sigh arose, hearts churning with the weight of his words. The villagers looked at one another, their eyes wide with newfound possibility. Could it be that understanding would come not from their immediate situations being resolved, but through the unity of their shared experiences? As the evening wore on, stories turned into laughter, and laughter became joy. Hope grew like the fire, feeding off their collective spirit, illuminating the night around them. With each passing moment, they felt the weight of doubt lessening, replaced instead with a dawning realization. They were not alone in their struggles. Just as the fire began to die down, Thomas looked back at the flickering flames and spoke with boldness. What if tonight is just the beginning? What if tomorrow brings a sign, a whisper of divine promise? We must remain vigilant and open, for miracles can arrive in unexpected ways. The villagers nodded in agreement, their hearts alight with this notion of anticipation. Questions filled the air, fostering an excitement that stirred their spirits. What signs will be revealed? Someone whispered, eyes shining like stars. And in that hushed moment of possibility, Thomas closed the gathering with a prayer, yet his mind raced ahead. He sensed there was something greater coming, beyond what they had touched so far. What divine actions awaited them in the journey ahead? One unexpected miracle was just about to unfold. As dawn broke, a soft light spilling over the dewy fields, the village awoke to an air thick with promise. Thomas stood at the window of his small home, his heart still aglow from the evening's gathering. Each face he had seen last night remained etched in his memory, a mosaic of hopes and dreams now intertwined with prayer. The calls of morning birds provided a melodic backdrop as he pondered what lay before him. Today felt different. A whisper tugged at his spirit, urging him to prepare for the unexpected. Rising from his thoughts, he dressed quickly, his purpose clear, to meet the day with an open heart and a ready spirit. When he arrived at the church later that morning, a few villagers were already bustling about, their eyes bright with renewed hope. The air was filled with the scent of fresh bread and wildflowers, as if nature herself was celebrating this new beginning. Gathering his courage, Thomas decided to hold an impromptu morning session, sensing it was a day for connection and revelation. "Good morning, friends." He greeted them after they settled. "How does it feel to wake with hope?" "Light as a feather," laughed the young woman, her eyes dancing. Thomas smiled, feeling the spirit of joy buoying their hearts. "Today let us pray and witness the signs that might come our way." "Opening ourselves allows heaven to speak," Thomas encouraged gently. "What we seek can often reveal itself in unexpected forms." As they prayed together, Thomas felt a shift in the atmosphere, a stirring of something beyond their immediate concerns. It was as if their unified voices had amplified their desires, rising into the heavens like a fragrant offering. Moments passed, and a sense of silence filled the room again. But it was different this time, not heavy, but light and expectant. I sense that divine whispers may soon surround us, Thomas said, eyes sparkling with anticipation. And I invite us all to be patient, to listen, and to watch. After the prayer, they shared breakfast, warmth spreading through each shared story and hearty laugh. One villager stood up, holding her hand to her heart. I had a dream last night, Thomas. A sign. I saw a field of flowers blooming bright where once there were thorns. I believe it's a message of rebirth. The room filled with murmurs of both uncertainty and hope. What do you think it means? Asked another, leaning in with genuine curiosity. It might remind us that our struggles can become pathways to something beautiful, Thomas replied, feeling the spark of faith illuminating each heart. Sometimes life, as hard seasons, lead us to vibrant new beginnings. A spark ignited in their midst. They began sharing their own dreams and aspirations. Each story was a thread in the growing tapestry of their faith, connecting past pains to present hopes. As they spoke, Thomas felt a lightness wash over him. The burdens they carried were lifted not by resolution, but by unity and faith. Soon, an elder's voice broke through quietly, filled with reverence. What were we missing? What divine moments might we overlook in our busyness? Could we learn from the quiet, from the signs so easily ignored? The collective wisdom of the group deepened as they contemplated. It was a reminder, perhaps, that understanding didn't always lie in grand gestures or signs, but in the subtle presence of God in everyday moments. With excitement, Thomas closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the anticipation amplify in the air around him. What if today we find not only the miracle of connection among us, he ventured, but also a season of divine revelations unfolding right before our eyes? The villagers exchanged glances, their hearts piqued by this thought. Could today indeed hold unexpected miracles waiting to bloom? With a shared breath, they readied themselves for whatever signs might come, a collective heart, open and expectant, hoping to encounter the divine in the simplest of things. What awaited them in the coming hours? What beauty was about to unfold? As the morning sun climbed higher, casting a golden hue over the village, a gentle breeze carried whispers of anticipation. Thomas looked around the room, feeling a sacred energy binding everyone together. The hope in their eyes was palpable, almost tangible, and it filled the air like sweet incense, ready to reach heavenward. Let's not just wait, but be vigilant, Thomas urged, feeling the weight of their collective longing. There is power in our unity, a promise that God will reveal himself among us today. Suddenly, a soft knock at the door drew their attention. Curious smiles danced on the faces of the villagers as Thomas walked over and opened it. There stood an old man, his clothes tattered yet clean. Grains of wisdom sparkled in his eyes, framing a face etched with countless stories of trials and grace. "Forgive my intrusion," he said with a warm smile. "I was passing through and sensed a gathering of heartfelt prayers. May I join you?" "Of course," Thomas replied, ushering him in. "We welcome all who seek." As the man settled into the circle, the atmosphere shifted again. He radiated a calmness, a peace born of deep trust in God. "I have traveled far," the old man said, his voice steady and deep, "and I carry a message that may align with your gathering today." The villagers leaned in, their curiosity piqued. "What message do you bring?" One woman asked softly, her heart thumping with excitement. "I once stood where you stand now," he began, his voice wrapping around them like a cozy blanket, "holding on to dreams while navigating a valley of challenges. I learned that often revelation comes not through loud proclamations, but in humble, quiet moments. The key is to remain open." Thomas nodded, feeling the weight of those words sink deep into his spirit. The old man continued, "When I was lost, I began to seek signs in small things: a child's laughter, a song from the birds, a touch of sunlight breaking through dark clouds. Each moment served as a reminder that God does not abandon us. In times of uncertainty, those little signs become powerful truths." Touched, the villagers exchanged glances filled with understanding. They began to reflect on their lives, the thorns that had pressed deeply into their hearts, the struggles that felt like thin air, urging them to despair. Sometimes we miss the miracles because we seek them in grand gestures, the old man suggested. But they often hide in the ordinary, waiting for a soul willing to see. Thomas felt a stirring. What might we have overlooked? He pondered aloud. What miracles await as we walk in faith? With this new understanding, they commenced another prayer, but this time with a different focus. They prayed for sight, for awareness, asking the Lord to open their hearts to the hidden beauty. The energy in the room pulsed with anticipation, a weightless joy filling every corner. As they lifted their voices, someone gasped, "Look, the flowers by the window, they're blooming." Thomas turned, and indeed, a swirl of color danced in the sunlight. It was as if, just like in the dream shared earlier, colors were chasing shadows away. Laughter erupted, and their hearts lightened further. The air crackled with an unseen presence, like a gentle caress straight from the heavens. As the laughter settled, Thomas felt a gentle nudge, a deeper truth lurking just beyond reach. What more could they discover? He sensed the day was still unfolding with more profound revelations. In that moment, Thomas understood. Sometimes, the greatest miracles lie just beyond the horizon of our expectation. What would they uncover next? What signs of the divine awaited them just around the bend? The laughter from the blooming flowers still lingered in the air, weaving through their spirits like a melody. As the villagers took a moment to breathe in the beauty, Thomas felt his heart swell with expectation. What other wonders lay in wait? The old man observed the vibrant atmosphere with a serene smile, his presence a pillar of peace. When you quiet the noise around you, God often speaks through the stillness. He reminded them gently, "Let's not rush. Let's take a moment to reflect and listen." With heads bowed and hearts open, they entered a sacred silence. Time slowed, a serene hush enveloping them, almost tangible. It felt as if the very air sparkled with divine energy. Thomas felt God's presence expanding within him, illuminating his mind with clarity. In that silence, visions flashed before him, pictures of kindness, moments of grace, and whispers of hope. It became clear to him. These are the subtle signs the old man spoke of. The familiar warmth of connection wrapped around him with every breath, binding them together in their shared faith and expectancy. But then, one voice broke the silence, a fragile whisper. "Why do I feel so lost?" It was Lila, a young woman whose brow was furrowed in confusion. Her vulnerability resonated with many. "I've been searching so long, but I can't seem to find the path laid out for me." Thomas's heart ached for her. "You are not alone, Lila. We all have valleys of doubt," he said, stepping closer. "Even in those times, we must remember God's plan is often written in the small moments, not grand visions." The old man nodded in agreement, his wisdom glowing. Loss of direction can feel isolating. It's easy to overlook the guideposts placed along the way. Faith is often patient. It requires us to trust and to remain steadfast. Lila's eyes brimmed with tears, reflecting both sorrow and relief. "But how can I trust when the way seems dark?" Her voice trembled, yet hope mingled with her words. "And that is the essence of faith," the old man said, holding her gaze. "True trust is believing in the light even when it's obscured by shadows. Open your heart to the smallest of joys." Sometimes, illumination is not a floodlight, but a flickering candle. Their collective hearts were stirred. A light flickered within each of them, igniting a sense of belonging and unity. A man in the back responded, "I once felt lost too, wandering alone. But then a friend smiled at me one day, and it felt like God was reaching through them to remind me I was seen." "Yes," another chimed in. "A simple act can shift our perspective. Like the blooming flowers, that is how God shows his love. He reveals himself in us, through us, and around us." The room filled with sounds of agreement, a chorus of understood struggles and shared hopes. Each one added a thread to the tapestry of faith they were weaving together. Encouraged, Thomas raised his voice. Let us commit to seeing those divine flickers of light, however small. Let us cultivate our awareness to recognize and celebrate every miracle we encounter daily. With renewed determination, they bowed their heads once more, this time praying not only for awareness, but for strength to trust along their individual journeys. As the prayer unfolded, a soft breeze swept through the space. The scent of blooming flowers danced around them, an aroma of hope and new beginnings. Thomas felt a warmth envelop them, resonating through all their hearts, a promise of guidance and comfort. But just as the prayer reached a climactic height, the old man's voice broke through gently once more. Remember, sometimes when we seek, we must also be prepared for what we might find. For God can challenge our comfort and stretch our understanding. A hush fell over the group. What might they be called to embrace? What unexpected paths awaited them in their revelations? In that sacred room, they felt the weight of a divine mystery hanging over them, ready to unfold. A stillness lingered in the room, the sacred moment thick with anticipation. Thomas could feel the collective breath of hope and uncertainty around him. Lila wiped her tears, her face illuminated by a newfound curiosity, ready to engage with whatever was to come next. The old man, wise and steady, continued with a gentle intonation that seemed to draw everyone closer. When we step into the unknown, we must do so not with fear, but with faith. Each of you carries a light, and together, those lights can illuminate even the darkest of paths. Are we willing to let our candles shine? One by one, nods of agreement spread through the group as they began to understand the depth of their shared journey. It was not merely about their individual struggles. It was about the comfort of community that seeking together would light their way. I am willing, Lila said fervently, her freshly determined spirit contagious. But what if I falter? What if I miss my chance? Faltering is part of the journey, my dear, the old man replied, his eyes twinkling with compassion. Even when we trip, God is there to guide us back. He does not abandon us in our struggle, but rather molds us through it. A flicker of realization danced in Thomas's heart. He could clearly see how they all carried pieces of a puzzle, individual stories that, when pieced together, formed a grand narrative filled with purpose and grace. This evening, let us embark on a journey of expression, Thomas suggested, his own excitement growing. Share your stories, your flickers of light. When did you feel guided? When did hope spark brightly in your life? The room erupted in whispers and eager exchanges. A woman, her voice full of tremulous wonder, spoke first. I remember the day I lost my job. I felt broken, and yet, during that time of despair, I found a new path, coaching youth. God turned my loss into a treasure. A ripple of murmurs filled the air, encouraging others to share. Alan, a quiet man who always seemed to linger in the shadows, unexpectedly spoke up. I was angry for years after my brother passed away. I felt abandoned. But one day, I assisted an elderly neighbor, and in doing so, a warmth filled me. I think that was God's way of reminding me to keep living. He just wants us to serve. With every story told, candles were lit. The soft glow of inspiration ignited hearts, spreading warmth through the gathering. They leaned into one another, words becoming bridges, connecting their struggles with the profound comfort of each revelation. As the stories flowed, a thunder rolled in the distance, punctuating the beauty of their communion. It was as if even the heavens joined their gathering, mirroring the stirring within them. The old man smiled gently. Such are the moments where God's grace flows like a river, unexpected yet refreshing. Let them encourage you. But remember, the journey of faith is also to be discerning. Sometimes, what appears as light is a mere reflection. We must explore deeply lest we be misled. A wave of seriousness swept over the group. What challenging truths might they face ahead? Could they remain steadfast amidst deception? Thomas's pulse quickened, thoughts racing as he never considered the notion of reflections and shadows. What other surprises awaited them on this path of light and love? As they remained in their circle, wrapped in an air of possibility and caution, the atmosphere vibrated with unspoken questions. Each of them felt a spark of urgency. Where would their shared exploration lead? What divine revelations awaited just beyond their current understanding? With heads bowed one last time, they prayed for clarity, strength, and the sheer courage to embrace whatever God had in store for them. In that moment of quiet, Thomas sensed the stirring of a greater mystery yet to be unveiled. As the warmth of their communal prayers faded into a reflective stillness, a sense of anticipation brewed thick in the air. Thomas felt a gentle stirring inside him, as though something divine was calling forth. He opened his eyes slowly, scanning the faces around him. They appeared eager, yet apprehensive, a palpable blend of hope and fear. Lila, her earlier enthusiasm wavering, caught his gaze. "What now?" she whispered, her voice almost a prayer. The old man's presence seemed more vibrant as he scanned the room with a knowing smile. When we share our stories, we also share our truths. It is essential that we listen beyond the words. There are layers, my friends, layers that hold the wisdom we seek. His words hung in the air, coaxing forth deeper reflections. Thomas felt the weight of those layers resting on him, as if they were tangible. What truths lie beneath my own story? He pondered, feeling the embers of faith spark anew within him. Let's open our hearts wider, the old man encouraged. Tonight, I invite you to work as mirrors for each other. Reflect back what you feel, what you see. Listen closely, for the answers we seek often echo in the hearts of those around us. A ripple of nervous laughter broke free, but the intent was clear. They would peel back those layers and expose the hidden gems that God had buried in their lives. Alan, whose bravery had surprised them all, spoke again. "I never knew how much kindness mattered until it was shown to me when I least expected it," he said, his voice steady yet raw. "Exactly," Lila interjected. "It's like each act of love is a flare across the dark sky. If we are sharing these moments, how can we find the flares that light our paths?" The old man nodded, eyebrows furrowing as if in thought. Never underestimate the power of shared truth. But remember, discernment is key. As you reflect, let everything flow through the lens of love. Ask yourselves, does this resonate with light, or does it cast a shadow? Silence enveloped them. It was a heaviness filled with potential. Thomas looked at the flickering candles they had lit earlier, each representing a shared light. He realized how easily a reflection could distort the true brightness. What if we mistake shadows for truth? Thomas pondered aloud, surprised by the question as it slipped from his lips. "Ah, therein lies the struggle of humanity," replied the old man, his tone gentle but firm. "Our spirit-yearning hearts can often chase after illusions. Be vigilant, for it is when we seek validation in the wrong places that we lose our way." The thunder continued to rumble beyond their cocoon of warmth, an echo of the divine conversation unfolding. Each clap seemed to serve as a reminder, a wake-up call for their spirits to be alert and wise. As the evening progressed, one by one they shared their stories, peeling back the layers, sharing moments of vulnerability and clarity. Each tale resonated, sending threads of connection weaving among them. But within the gleaning of wisdom, an even deeper question stirred a question that reverberated within Thomas like the unrelenting thunder outside. What if the path they sought to illuminate held stones instead of light? With trembling hands, he spoke. What if we stand here, seeking and sharing, only to find shadows lurking at the edges of our intentions? Gasps filled the room, collective realization surging like a wave. Could they truly discern the difference between shadows and light? What if their well-meaning hearts led them astray? As they found themselves entrapped in an immediate whirlwind of thoughts and emotions, the old man raised his hands, calming their spirits. Pause for a moment. God's presence is here, guiding you. Trust in this gathering, but also trust in your own hearts. Seek His truth above all. Amidst swirling doubts, silence once again took over, yet it was filled with urgent anticipation. What deeper truths beckoned them to unravel their own shadows? What divine revelations awaited, just beyond the reach of their current understanding? And as they held hands in this sacred space, uncertainty wrapped around them. Thomas felt a calling to step further into the mystery of faith awaiting on the other side of disclosure. The silence settled deeper, a dense cloak of expectancy woven tightly around the group. Thomas felt every heartbeat resonate with his own, each pulse reinforcing their shared yearning for truth. The flickering candles cast dancing shadows, and he prayed silently for the courage to confront whatever darkness might linger in his own heart. Lila's eyes sparkled with a mix of fear and determination. What if, instead of shadows, we discover something beautiful, a piece of God's light buried within us? Her voice was like a gentle breeze breaking through the tension, a hesitant but hopeful whisper that ignited a flicker of resolve among them. The old man nodded appreciatively, his face softening. Precisely. The divine often hides treasures within our trials. It's how we view the dark that transforms it into light. Each story shared tonight is a thread in the tapestry of our collective journey. Alan chimed in, "We've all faced our own struggles. What if those struggles are the gems that God wants us to bring forth today?" His tone was passionate, laced with sincerity, resonating with them all. With newfound resolve, the old man gestured towards the circle. "Let us take turns. Share not only your truths, but also the shadows that have bested you. In showing these, we reveal the hope that has emerged in response. Vulnerability brings us closer to divine transformation." One by one, they began to speak, sharing the depths of their experiences. Clara confessed her feelings of unworthiness that often shadowed her faith. "I kept thinking I wasn't good enough for God's love," she admitted, tears glimmering like precious stones in her eyes. "But through a lost friendship, I found kindness in unexpected places. It reminded me love is just a gift away." Thomas felt a warmth washing over him, a spark igniting as Clara's vulnerability connected with his own hidden doubts. That flicker ignited something deep within. Perhaps their shadows weren't something to fear, but rather something that pointed to the light yet to be found. "Even through pain, I've discovered God's unyielding love." He spoke up, his voice more confident now. Each moment of despair opened doors to new understanding. "I've learned that light doesn't eliminate darkness, it transcends it." As they continued sharing, rising and falling like the tide, waves of understanding circled around the room. Every heart unveiled echoed the contours of a divine story. It was in weaving together their truths and tender wounds that they not only faced their fears, but began to unveil a collective light. The old man leaned in, a twinkle in his eyes. "This is the essence of communion. We bear witness to each other's lives, each struggle revealing the depth of grace that God holds for us all. But remain watchful. Remember the shadows that would have us retreat. For those shadows do not define your journey." A collective intake of breath filled the room, the weight of his words settling over them. They shared glances of profound realization. It was as if their spirits had been gently stirred awake. As the thunder outside faded toward a distant growl, Thomas felt a calling, urging him to delve deeper. What if our stories could lead us toward a greater purpose? He wondered aloud, aware that the questions they faced tonight were not just theirs. They were intimately entwined with a divine calling echoing throughout the ages. He looked around at the faces, each shining with a newfound resolve. What if we allow these truths to become the beacon guiding the way for others? A reverent hush befell them, each heart now illuminating with shared hope and courage. They stood at the precipice of discovery, hearts wide and open, ready to embrace whatever truths lay in wait. And as the candles flickered in the stillness, nobody could deny they were teetering on the edge of something extraordinary. The lights twinkling and the air thick with divine presence, They would articulate their own stories, how the shadows were just footnotes in the ultimately bright narrative of their lives. But what revelations stirred just beyond the frame of their understanding? What lessons awaited them as they ventured forth to illuminate their path, shining God's light into the lives of others? The morning sun rose gently over St. Michael's, infusing the village with a warm glow. In the sacred gathering space, the air felt charged with the electricity of hope, anticipation swirling and twinkling like the dew on the grass. Thomas opened his heart to the day, feeling the purpose settled within him solidify into a calling. As the villagers convened once more, the old man's wisdom echoed in his mind. Do not fear the shadows, embrace the light. Thomas knew this gathering was no ordinary moment. It was a divine orchestration, a spiritual awakening that had begun with their stories and would now lead them to a transformative journey. Good morning, dear friends. He greeted warmly, his voice steady and inviting. Today, we stand together renewed. Let us share not just our dreams, but the action steps that can turn our intentions into reality. How can we be the vessels of hope, not only for ourselves, but for those outside this circle? A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, hearts lifting at the prospect of tangible action. Lila's eyes sparkled as she spoke. We've seen how our stories connect us. Let us take this newfound light into our lives, reach out to those who feel lost, and lift them up. Yes, Alan echoed. Let us create spaces for others to share their shadows and their light. Just as we learned from the old man, our touch can be the reminder they need. The villagers began to brainstorm, voices intertwining like vibrant threads. Ideas flowed to community dinner where stories could be shared, prayer circles in homes to encourage open hearts, and outreach to those within the village who had stepped away from their faith. Each suggestion was met with fervor, proving their resolve to weave love into everyday acts. Thomas felt a swell of gratitude as he observed his friends' spirits ignite. Miracles begin when we lift one another. When we champion each other, we ignite the light first within ourselves, then in others. Together, we can create a tapestry of belonging. Moments later, a rush of wind swept through the open window, carrying with it the fragrance of blooming lavender from the gardens outside. A sign, a promise, Thomas exclaimed, drawing laughter and cheers from the crowd. It felt like divine confirmation. Let us not forget the urgency of our journey, the old man reminded, his presence serene. While we step forward in love, be vigilant. There will be shadows that seek to discourage. Each step we take is a testament to faith, trusting even when we cannot see the path clearly. The group quieted, absorbing his wisdom. They understood the journey ahead would not always be easy, but their bonds had strengthened, rooting themselves in shared purpose. Let us meet here every week to share our stories, Lila proposed, her voice unwavering. We'll keep each other accountable, encourage one another, and pray together. No one should walk alone. A chorus of nods and hearty affirmations filled the room. And with that, they formed smaller groups, deciding on specific actions they would take beyond the safety of their gathering. With spirits soaring high, they committed to check on the vulnerable, invite skeptics in for conversation, and open their homes for prayer. Thomas led the selected actions, rallying their focus and lighting the flame of change. As the sun dipped low, casting a golden hue over St. Michael's, they stood together, a united front transformed by divine love. The villagers clasped hands, hearts interlinked, voices rising in prayer. Lord, guide us as we take these steps. May we shine your love brightly. Let us not falter even in shadows. With every act, let faith resonate beyond our village, giving hope where fires of doubt may linger. Tears glimmered in many eyes, hearts broken and restored in a single breath, as they felt the divine presence swirl amidst them. Amen, they echoed, a resounding affirmation of commitment and renewed faith. As the prayer concluded, smiles spread like wildfire. They could sense the power of unity enveloping them, the undeniable assurance of grace that would carry them through their mission. Together, they would cup their hands around the flickers of hope, nurturing the fire that had begun to burn within their hearts. And as they dispersed, each person transformed not just in their faith, but in purpose. Thomas whispered to himself, "What a beautiful God we serve. May we never forget the light we uncovered." In that quiet moment, he realized it was not just about avoiding shadows, but stepping boldly into the light and sharing it generously. The journey ahead shimmered with promise. Lives were about to be changed. This was their divine mission, one they would take to heart. They were not merely villagers anymore. They were ambassadors of hope, light carriers for all who needed to see, experience, and know the ultimate grace. Their hearts beat as one, ready to illuminate the world outside. And so, the story of St. Michael's village transformed from one of reticence to one of radiant faith. It was now a sacred tale woven with love, determination, and the promise that miracles awaited those willing to seek them. As you reflect on this inspiring journey, remember, dear friends, you hold the power to ignite faith, to inspire love, and to witness miracles. Stand together, serve with joy, and be the light both in your own life and in the lives of those around you. Indeed, be the change, and let us all shine on. If you felt this message resonate deeply, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second. Hit that bell for notifications so you never miss another exclusive faith story. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread this divine message. Comment below with your thoughts and reactions. What truths did you uncover? And share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation. Together, let's light the path for everyone seeking hope.